You're live on the air. What is your question for Rabbi?
Hello, Rabbi. I've been debating a Christian and over the virgin birth of Jesus, and he specifically mentioned that the prophecy is for a virgin birth, whereas when I pointed out that this is just supposed to be a normal birth and not a virgin birth, they said then what's the point of the prophecy? Because if it's just a normal birth, that doesn't really add to anything. It's so the prophecy is that it has to be a special kind of a birth in order for it to be a sign for human beings to see. So how do we debate that with a Christian who says that it has to be some special kind of a birth, otherwise how will you figure out whether the Messiah has come or not?
Well, this is a very, very good question. I'm very grateful that you called. I don't know if anyone's ever called in with that question. I do examine this point in an extensive chapter in Volume 1 of Let's Get Biblical, and I must explain this. It's just a great, great question. I want to present the Christian argument here. First, the antecedent point. In Matthew, Joseph is told in a dream that, number one, Mary was not unfaithful to him, and although the two of them never slept together and she's pregnant and Joseph wanted to put her away, he wanted to divorce her, the angel informs Joseph that do not put away Mary, your wife, because that which is within her womb is of the Holy Spirit. The key point is that this is a miraculous conception. That's the whole point of Matthew and Luke, but we're going to focus on Matthew now. And that is that this is a completely miraculous event because she has conceived without a man. And then Matthew does what Luke doesn't do. We have a lot of, in the Christian Bible, Matthew doing things that Luke doesn't do. Fulfillment citations is one of them. And we are told in Matthew chapter 1, and this is not an arbitrary event, that the Messiah is to be born to a virgin, but actually is foretold. Quoting Isaiah, we are told, "Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they will call his name Emmanuel," which means God is with us. Now, Christians are very well aware of the staggering problem that when we look at Isaiah 7:14, we look at the original, we discover that the single most important point is that, as far as the church is concerned, is that this woman is a virgin when she conceives. But when we look at Isaiah 7:14, we don't find that one word. There is no other word like it. There is only one way in both biblical and modern Hebrew to convey certain virginity, and that is betulah. There is no other way to convey that. And as it turns out, that word appears nowhere in Isaiah 7:14. In fact, that word appears nowhere in the entire 7th chapter of Isaiah. That word does appear in the book of Isaiah some 5 times, but not in relation to this, because Isaiah doesn't have a virginity in mind. This is a complete mistranslation. The original Hebrew says something else. Lachein yitain Hashem hu lachem os. Behold, the Lord of his own will give you a os, which means a sign. Hine ho al mahara, behold, the young woman is with the child, v'yeled his bain, and she will bear a son, v'karas shemo Emmanuel, and she will call his name Emmanuel. And this is where the Christian argument comes in, or the Christian apologetic, the defense comes in. Christians know that this is a big problem. I mean, big is not the word for it. It's a existential, monumental problem, and that is the word for virgin isn't there. Do not believe people who say the word alma means a virgin. It isn't true. In fact, in Proverbs 30, it's talking about an adulterous woman who's very much not a virgin. Alma means a young woman. A young woman might be a virgin, like in the case of Rebecca, just like in the English language. There's not some big mystery. When you refer to a person as a young woman, you're saying 2 things about this individual. She's young and she's a she. She's female. Her sexual history is not conveyed by that. A young woman might be a virgin or might not be a virgin. As it turns out, it is young women that have babies and not old women. So it's the same thing in Hebrew. There's not some woo-woo exegesis going on here. It's the same thing in the English language. Now, What Christians argue is the following. It's a very interesting argument, and it dates back quite a few years. I don't mean 6. And the argument goes like this. Hold on, Jewish people. Hold on for one moment. Don't get so excited. As it turns out, you have a big problem. If you, the Jews, are claiming that Isaiah 7:14 is not talking about, is not describing a virgin who conceives, where's the miracle? What is so odd? How is this becomes the miracle that's going to be a sign? This sign, if you read it in context, is about a civil war with Syria and the northern kingdom of Israel form an alliance against the southern kingdom. I'm not going to go into it now. Read it in context. That event occurs 2,700 years ago, meaning 7 centuries before the Christian era. But here's what Christians argue. They go like this. If this woman conceives through the normal, natural sexual union of a man and a woman, where's the big miracle? There's no miracle here. That happens every day, millions of times a day. Women become pregnant all over the world through a sexual union of a man and a woman. There is no miracle. Therefore, by the fact that the text says that I am going to provide it, this is going to be miraculous, and therefore you're going to know it's going to happen, this couldn't possibly be a natural conception. It had to be miraculous. Do you all get that? This is a very, very interesting question. Really interesting. Okay, so let me explain. They're wrong on 2 massive accounts. The text says, L'chein yitin Hashem hu lachem os. Behold, the Lord is going to give you a sign. The word sign means something that can be seen. The word sign does not mean a miracle. That means there's someone saying, oh, it's a sign. It must be a miracle. That's not the case at all. One of the first signs we find in the entire Tanakh is the sign of the rainbow, which demonstrates to the world that there will never be a flood again. Well, as it turns out, there is nothing miraculous about a rainbow, but what is striking about a rainbow is the fact that you can see it. A sign is always something you can see. Think about the word sign. The word sign is always something that you could see. As it turns out, it's vinahapich. It's just the opposite. Listen very carefully. So what I want you to do is, whatever else you're doing, just stop for a moment and just listen very carefully. A sign must be something that you could see. That's why it's called a sign. It doesn't mean that it must be miraculous. It's just something that you can identify. It might be miraculous for sure, but it just has to be something you can see. Now, here's the rub. Listen carefully. As it turns out, a virgin birth or virgin conception can't be seen. Think about that for a moment. Behold, the Lord is going to provide you a sign. That means that you could see. It doesn't mean it's miraculous. It just means it's something that's visible. As it turns out, let's say, God wanted, he could have a virgin conceive. That would be, in the scheme of God's creation, that would be a very minor miracle. HaKadosh Baruch Hu creating man from the clay of the earth. So a virgin conceiving, certainly, we don't reject it because God couldn't have a virgin conceive. Sarah conceived. That is easily argued from a scientific standpoint. A woman who's run out of eggs becoming pregnant is a far bigger miracle than a woman who's just experienced parthenogenesis. That's not the point at all. The point is you can see it. So think. I'm going to ask you a question. If a virgin, because God makes a virgin conceive, let's just think about that for a moment. What would you see? If a virgin did give birth, what would be seen? What would be observed? That she never had sex before? The answer is nothing. A virgin birth, one could argue, is a miracle for sure. But you can't, a virgin birth by definition can't be a sign. It fails the words of Isaiah. That means, v'nahapachu, it's just the opposite. I hope you catch this. It doesn't say in Isaiah 7:14, behold, the Lord of his own will give you a mo face. A mo face means a miracle. where meaning something that is beyond nature occurs. And then os just means a sign. A sign must fulfill one criteria, and that is it has to be something that could be seen. If signs in Chicago are getting blown down by strong winds, burying stop signs and yield signs underground would then serve no purpose because you can't see it, although they would never get knocked down again. A sign is something you can see. Think for a moment. If a woman never had sexual intercourse with anyone and had a baby, what are you seeing? You are seeing nothing. There is nothing observed. Therefore, it fails that test of a sign. However, then you're asking the question, what exactly is a sign? Well, what is the sign are the next verses. As it turns out, the conception of the child is not the sign. I know this comes as a very big surprise. And if it comes as a surprise, with the love in my heart, you didn't read Isaiah 7 from beginning all the way to the end of verse 25. Because the sign is not the conception or birth of the child. The two verses that follow Isaiah 7:14 are the sign. Again, what's really happening in Isaiah 7? Please, please, please just read from Isaiah 1 through 13 before you go further. If you don't, this is going to become, I'm just going to trust Rabbi Tovia Singer because he sounds like a smart guy. Stop that. It's enough depending on men. I can point you somewhere, but I please read it for yourself. Please go to the text. Please do that. I'll point you somewhere, but not that check it out. You see, I'm telling you the truth. Please do this because or else you're going to be just walking in darkness if you're not reading context. And I'm very grateful that some of you just like rabbis. I appreciate that. I really don't want to do that. I want all of you to be scholars of your own account, meaning that you're going to primary sources. Just read the primary sources. What the next verses say, butter and honey will he eat before he knows to reject bad and choose good. This is talking about the child. The context is that Jerusalem is surrounded by two massive armies who want to remove Ahaz as king. Ahaz did not deserve to be saved, but he had to because God made a promise to David HaMelech that his children, even the wicked children, would not be removed, punished. They'd be punished personally, but he could not allow Ahaz, a very wicked man, really one of the worst, he couldn't allow the Davidic kingdom to be cut off. When you're under siege, imagine you're in a city and you're surrounded completely by enemies, very powerful enemies. We're introduced in the beginning of the chapter that the whole house of David, their hearts were shaking like leaves in a tree that are rustling in the wind. I mean, people were petrified. He's saying that this child will be eating butter and honey. What does that mean? He's eating a pastrami sandwich. When you're under siege and your life is in grave danger, you're not processing fundamental foods. You're not taking, if you can get your hands on milk, you drink it. You don't start making butter out of it. You don't make curds out of it. You don't make chemo out of it. You're just, if you can get a glass of milk under siege, you're not making butter. They didn't make butter in Stalingrad. If people are starving to, they can get their hands on anything. There was no process beyond it. No cheese, emulsifiers, none of that. Honey, you don't cultivate bees under siege. What? No one does that. So what the text is saying is that this child who she is pregnant with is going to be eating butter and honey when he knows to reject bad and choose good, meaning he matures. Why? Because before the boy knows enough to reject what is wrong and choose what is good, these two kings will be rejected. So what is the sign, sweethearts? The sign is the maturity of the child. That can be seen. Is there anything miraculous about children maturing? Nothing. But can it be observed? Of course it can. You could be shown this so that you can know. The word is knowledge in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 35. Ki Hashem hu Elokim. No. Knowledge. Study it. Ein oid milvado. There is no one else besides him. Nothing. No one, no Trinity. There's one HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Blessed be his holy name. Let us see the coming of the true Mashiach, b'mheira b'yameinu, very quickly in our time. Thank you for that insightful question.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא